Anyway, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the CBOC. It is 5:33, and I will call the meeting to order. Can we take roll, please?
Jeff Cambra.
Present.
Terrell Gamble. Mark McComb.
Here.
Joby Thomas.
Present.
Benjamin Scott.
3 present. Okay, we can move forward. Next is the approval of the meeting agenda. And I do have a question for our, for anybody that is, I guess it'll be for Greg. The approval of the minutes, we don't have people that were here for those meetings. So we are
It's
not.
only a quorum of your existing membership.
So
You
we
don't,
don't,
the people who are here don't have to be present to vote on the minutes.
but we still have to have a majority vote, correct?
Correct. To pass.
Yeah.
So you just need 2 out of the 3.
Oh, we just need 2 out of the 3
Oh,
because
what's
it's only
here?
the
Yeah,
3
you
of
have
us.
a quorum.
Okay.
Yep.
So I don't think that on the May 14th, so but if you weren't here, you obviously have to abstain or can't vote because you can't approve them.
That's up to the member.
I'm willing to vote to approve the minutes, even though I wasn't at meetings.
Yes,
To
otherwise
keep
you're
things
staying in limbo
moving.
forever.
Right,
Well, that's right. That was my question.
we can't bog this thing down.
All right. In that case, I will,
Often, in these kind of situations, I've heard the chair say, this is to accept the minutes as opposed to approve the minutes.
Right. You can do that as well.
great. So we will, for agenda item number 2, we're going to cross out approve and we'll just say accept. So could I have a motion to accept the, we don't need to do, I need a motion to accept the agenda as written.
So moved?
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimously approved. Okay, item number 3 is the from May 14th, June 11th, and October 8th. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
All second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, item number 4, public comment. Not seeing any public comment in the room. Is there anybody online?
I'd make one just real quick for the committee to consider. Considering the attendance we've had over the last, say, 9 months, I don't have any recommending authority here, but I would recommend y'all consider going to a quarterly calendar for CBOC, which is, you're only required by law to be twice a year. But if you go to a quarterly and we set those up front, you might have a better attendance with people in conflicts and schools. And that's one of the challenges we have with the student trustee or the student is it's hard to get to students because this is the same time night classes start. So
Yes.
but if we did it on a quarterly basis, we might be able to facilitate that a little easier. But I would just offer, it might be a little easier on attendance and not have to cancel so many meetings if we did it on a quarterly basis versus a monthly basis. So that's just something for the future, if y'all want to take it up or not.
Thank you for your comment. Item number 5 is introduction of new members. And I know we've done this once before, but if our new members would like to take just a second to do a brief introduction, since at least we're all here now, starting with Mark.
Sure. So I'm Mark McComb, and I'm a Laney College student now in retirement. But Mark wouldn't let me be the student representative. So I'm an at-large representative, but in my professional life, I'm a CPA, and my professional area of expertise was in corporate and government financial statements. So my firm, which was KPMG, is a large professional services firm, and we have all kinds of different clients, but served public companies, not-for-profits, and governments, including places like UCSF, University of Washington, University of New Mexico. So got some relevant government reporting experience. So I'm always happy to look at the financial statements and have some thoughts on those. So I live in Piedmont. I have 2 kids, both of whom are in their late 20s, early 30s.
Great, thank you. And Joby.
Joby Thomas, representing retired, retirement organization. I am a former state of California employee after 25 years working at workers' comp division of the state of California. I was an operations manager, did a lot of compliance and audits and all that fun stuff. So I'm not a finance expert, so that's great that we can have someone here who has that experience. I have 2 kids. I substitute teach at 2 different districts. That's my passion right now.
Excellent. Well, welcome again. Thank you for your participation. Okay, moving on to 6, election of officers. And I guess I looked at our bylaws section 4. There wasn't any specific procedure, so I am assuming people can self-nominate for the positions, and we have 2. One is the chair and one is the vice chair. And I will open the floor for nominations. And I think before we do that, I want to say is that, the job as the chair is really more administrative. I don't bring any special knowledge at all. It's just I didn't step back fast enough when we were looking for that. So if you have any desire to be the chair or the vice chair, and I'll start with the chair, if there's any desire from anybody to be the chair. Okay, not stepping back fast enough. I would nominate myself.
All right.
And I'm pretty sure we don't need seconds on nominations, right? You can just nominate and then
You can
vote.
nominate, yeah, you can, or you just, I mean, especially with such a small number, you just move on.
Yeah, just want to make sure we do it.
Yeah, yeah.
That's all. So with that said, all those in favor of having me be the chair again, say aye.
Aye.
All right, moving on to vice chair.
Thank you, Mark.
Any nominations for vice chair?
Any short description of responsibility?
You fill in when he's out.
That's it.
Yeah,
Pretty
that's
much
all
it.
it really is, yes.
Yeah, so that's just so the board knows, the chair and the vice chair, as needed, they're both supported by me and Shinova. So there's, I mean, we work with Jeff on agendas and so forth, and then the items based on y'all's task list, or your, I can't remember what y'all call it, is your schedule. What
The
y'all
work plan.
Work plan, thank you, sorry.
Yeah,
So we support y'all in the background to make sure everything is done on a timely basis, so.
yeah, but it's primarily administrative in nature. You don't need any special knowledge. Do I hear a nomination?
Sure. I'll
Excellent, thank you for stepping forward, Joby. And with that, all those in favor of Joby being the vice chair?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, it's unanimous. Well, we got that done. Thank you very much. And then on to the meat of our presentation or meeting today, item number 7, CDWL presentation. And
So I'd like to introduce Ben Levitt. He's one of the principals at CWDL. So he was with us last time in person. So he presented the district's financial audit and these audits as well to the district board of trustees. So tonight he'll be presenting to you the financial audit for measures A and G. Measure A, just so everybody knows, was the older audit. The older bond that we had that is coming to an end. Measure G is our current bond that we're currently operating under. So they do financial audit, and then they will do a performance audit. So Ben, if you'll take it from there.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Greg. And hello to the committee. My pleasure to be virtually with you guys tonight. I'm actually not that far. I'm presenting to the full board at Ohlone College later tonight. That was why I wasn't able to physically be there with you, but very happy to be here electronically to speak to the results of the audit for fiscal 25 for both elections. I'll be going through a pretty high-level PowerPoint. I've also got the reports with me, though. So if any members of the committee would like to dive a bit deeper into the reports or any of our procedures, more than happy to speak to that. I'm going to share my screen. Let me go to pull this up. All right. And if you could just confirm that that's showing up okay.
Yes, sir.
Good to hear. So in this brief presentation, I'll be speaking to the scope of the audit, looking at a bit of a breakdown of what the audit report contains, and then finally getting into the results of both the financial and the performance audit. So that scope for any Prop 39 bond audit is going to consist of 2 deliverables, and a financial report and a performance report. The financial report contains 2 auditors' reports, an independent auditor's report where we opine on the fairness of the presentation of the broken out bond fund financials as broken out from all the other funds of the district. And then a yellow book report toward the back where we focus our testing on internal controls over that particular bond election, as well as controls over compliance. So those are the two deliverables from our side within the financial statement. And then in the performance report, we have a single deliverable, the performance audit, which is really geared toward answering a single, fairly simple question, which nonetheless takes quite a bit of work to get to, which is whether any expenditures that we've sampled during the current year were spent outside of the provision of the ballot language for the particular election in question. And so for each election, we're talking about 3 separate audit reports inside of these 2 separate booklets, these 2 deliverables. All of these opinion units, we're talking about the fiscal year ended June 30, 2025. So started July 1st, 24 through June 30, 25. And so getting to kind of the first part of that, in the financial statements, right there on document page 1, right after the table of contents, our independent auditor's report, which we'll typically see as our chief work product, appears. And at the very top of that first page in that independent auditor's report, under the opinion section, we provide our opinion. And I'm very pleased to report to the committee for fiscal 25, our opinion over measures A and G is unmodified. That is the highest quality opinion an external firm can render, and is to say, based upon the results of our testing during fiscal 25, these financial statements can absolutely be relied upon by this committee, by the district's governing board, and all of the measures A and G stakeholders. That report is followed immediately by the core financial statement. So right after the pages of that independent auditor's report, we get into the core, which is quite a bit simpler than it would appear, say, for the entire district entity, because we're only looking at those broken out measures A and G fund financials. And so we see those here in those fund balance sheets by election, which are required to be presented separately and maintained separately. We can see for both elections, assets offset by obligations at that snapshot date of June 30, 2025, along with ending fund balance restricted, as we would always expect for a Prop 39 bond program, in the amounts of $809,000 and change for measure A and $123.707 million for measure G. And on the very next page in the financial audit, we'll see exactly how we got to those ending restricted fund balances. So we can see in the case of measure A, quite minor activity relative to measure G, where we've got revenues offset by all the expenditures of the program relating to placing those capital projects into service. You can see there were no financing sources or uses, no issuances impacting measure A during the current year, ultimately causing a negative net change in fund balance and bringing that restricted fund balance down from a beginning balance at July 1st, 2024 of 934 some thousand to 809,476 at June 30, 2025. And then right alongside that measure G, we see quite a bit more activity. So revenues consisting both of earnings on funds held in county, as well as the fair market value adjustment applying in fiscal 25 compared to that adjustment, the reversal of that adjustment in 24, resulting in total measure G revenues of $1.155 million, expenditures consisting of north of $75.175 million, and other sources consisting of a current year issuance of $150 million even in principal value. So ultimately, thanks to that current year issuance, a net positive change in fund balance for measure G, which we would expect typically in a major issuance year, resulting in an increase to that fund balance, bringing it from a beginning balance of $47.727 million to $123.707 million as of the cutoff date, June 30, 25.
Question?
Oh, yes.
On the revenue side, the unrealized gain loss on fair value of investments, it's like $1 million negative for Measure G.
Yes.
How does that work?
So the bulk, I think in the case of this program, the entirety of the unexpended funds are held in the county treasury. And every year, the county treasury provides statements where they show a fair market value ratio of that fair value of investments to the book value. In those years where the difference between fair value and book constitutes a material difference, we will book an adjustment. And then in the subsequent year, as that amount floats around and changes, sometimes to the better or the worse, we'll book an additional adjustment to reflect that change, essentially marking the value of that county investment to market. And as soon as I say that, I kind of want to give it a bit of a caveat that that difference is not expected to be realized. So at the rate that these funds are being withdrawn from the county treasury, facilities program management wouldn't anticipate that they're going to have to reduce their budget by any deficit in the fair market carrying value, because in theory, the treasury is not planning on having to liquidate, in some emergency fashion, any of those investments prior to its schedule of generally holding them to maturity. It would take an extraordinary event for them to have to do that and actually have an impact of that fair value ratio on pool participants. So it's something that, based on the accounting standards, we do need to book that to recognize that value as of this cutoff date. But in the case of, say Measure G, where that loss, is significant, is better part of $1 million, the program would ultimately expect to be made whole. And that's an understanding that's shared throughout districts across the state, working with all the different county treasuries around the state.
Yeah, Jeff, maybe I could take a shot at this. I suspect what's happening is the unspent bond proceeds are held at the county.
Right.
The county likely invests those funds in fixed rate bonds that have a specified maturity over a specified period of time. And when you buy a bond, what happens is if interest rates go up in the interim period, the current fair value, if you had to sell it today, the fair value of the bonds goes down.
So I understand that concept.
Yeah, and so I think what we're seeing here is at this moment in time, the value of the bonds has gone down. But what Jeff is saying, or what Ben is saying, is that by the time these things mature, as you get closer to the maturity date, the effect of interest rates on the fair value basically declines to zero, because when it ultimately matures at face value, that's the money you get.
You still get your money. Okay,
right.
So this is not equities then that are going up and down.
That would seem highly unlikely.
Yeah.
There's a mix of investments held at the county pool, but it's all very much restrained by government code. So there would be, far and away, the bulk of these are in extremely safe treasuries and other forms of very, very high grade investments. There would be, small amounts of commercial paper and other things that may have a slightly different risk profile, but those would be held to really tiny portions of the overall pooled portfolio.
Okay. And most importantly, there's no district involvement in that piece of the investment.
Nope.
Right. So there's no control over that.
We don't know.
Yeah.
And that's specifically outlined, and Ben, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's specifically outlined in code ever since the Orange County bankruptcy, because districts used to be able to invest their own money, and then Orange South Orange invested their own money and went bankrupt on their bond program. And after that, the Treasury passed a state law that it has to go through the county treasury now. Their pool is so large, and it's in the billions of dollars. You got road work, public works, et cetera. And as we were just mentioning, the challenge I have with the county is if they don't manage their investment, we start seeing the trough over a duration of time. Mm-hmm. And that's usually because the maturity has come due for a lot of and they have not bought new maturities. So they haven't fixed that gap. So a lot of times you're constantly filling the gap with your balance sheet. Yeah. And so we see it when the negative starts happening over a duration of period of time. And that's because 30-year maturity are coming due, 10 years are coming, 20 years, 15 years are all coming due, but they haven't picked up new maturities to backfill that loss. So
And those could be at a lower rate than.
it could be all over the place, because I've seen bonds at 1.5%, and I've seen them at 8%. So I mean, it really just depends in the value of them. There's a lot goes into it, but I sit down with the treasury and the assessor's office at the county once a quarter, just to go through the investment pool, because we do have us in Public Works has some of the larger investments in the county. So we make sure, so we can report it back to our budget and audit committee for the board, so they understand that the county's in our best interest as well.
Great. And thank you, Mark, for that.
Sure. Hey, Ben, this gives me management, or Ben, I have a question about this line that's called services and other operating expenses. So what kinds of, I understand capital outlay in this bond fund, right? That's the main purpose of the bonds, is to do capital improvements. But what's this other line item that's about $1.8 million? What kind of stuff?
So when we look at this breakout, this is kind of arranged in what we'd consider major object coding. So salaries and benefits, that's going to be one part of the grouping in a certain object range for kind of how expenses are classed. Capital outlay would be that explicit capital outlay relating to, say, buildings would have one object category, site improvements, and so on. Services and other operating, that's going to be those architectural fees, those consulting charges, those other kinds of, soft costs that there is some discretion. There's an argument to be made that any single cost associated with a bond can be tagged into what's called capital outlay, the 6,000s. I've heard attorneys present that perspective, but more typically, the expenses by different vendor type, whether they're salaries, whether they're, say, consultants or supplies, which would typically be, for instance, in the 4,000s rather than the capital 6,000s, which would have a threshold assigned to them, would stay broken out, and then they would still relate to, and that's really our key, placing those assets into service. So what we would need to see is whether it's a salary, whether it's some form of a consultant or an attorney or some other bond contractor, that the thrust of the service that they're providing is relating to the ballot language, is entirely related to some form of this facilities acquisition and construction. That would be kind of the letter that we would hold it to. You will see some programs where literally everything is capital outlay, facility acquisition and construction. This more detailed presentation, it still needs to be held to that same standard though.
So to help, so this would disappear at the end of this fiscal year in the CIP calculation, the construction in progress. So we have a lot of projects obviously that are in the middle of the project. So this is a lot of our overhead costs for project, program management, construction management, legal, advertising, all the things.
Yeah.
And then once the project is finished, then we capitalize it as an asset in totality.
I see. Okay. We don't have to.
Oh, no, I mean, no, please.
Yeah.
I guess what I'm accustomed to seeing is it's either capitalizable or it's not capitalizable.
Right.
And
So
if it's capitalizable, then it goes into the project, and if it's not, then it's an expense.
sure.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's true. It's just we work off a modified accrual basis, not an accrual basis. And so on a modified or Prop 39, we don't actually reflect all the overhead until the end of the fiscal year after the project's finished, because it keeps moving. So we only want to capitalize the asset one time for amortization schedules, and so for GASB. So we just do it at the end of the project instead of trying to do it throughout the project.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess most of my clients were enterprise funds, and so
Sure.
it was more like full accrual.
Yeah, we do have some enterprise funds, but they're very, very small.
Yeah.
Foundations one, we have bookstores one, that kind of stuff, but it's
Okay.
really immaterial to the overall budget.
See, learning something, good education.
That's all right.
Yeah.
Good question though.
Questions? So immediately following the core, the remaining sections of the financial report consist of the notes to the financials, which are there to provide additional detail on the balances contained within the core, as well as some accounting policies relevant to the bonds. And then the other auditor's report, which in the financial section of the report focuses on our yellow book testing, or our testing of internal controls and controls over compliance. This is the most common area to have an exception in a Prop 39 bond program. Essentially, if we noted a control breakdown as part of our testing, we would be required to note that in that section of the report if it qualified based on our estimation as either significant deficiency or material weakness, if it was in the category of being a reportable finding. And we would bring that to this committee's attention through that part of the document. Very pleased to note in the current year under audit fiscal 25, we do note no exceptions to the control environment for either election. And so an entirely clean financial statement related to the bonds. And then kind of speaking to the performance report, that is a bit separate. That really gets to whether, regardless of the overall control structure, whether any funds were classed to the bond that were inappropriate, that were outside of the provision of the ballot language. And our interpretation on how to test to performance in line with other auditors in this space is without respect to materiality and with a very large raw sample that's representative of the kinds of vendors that we're seeing charged during the year. And so just to give some context on that, we've got the totals of what we sampled in the current year. For Measure A, relatively minor activity, we sampled virtually the entire amount of expenses during fiscal 25. So we looked at expenditures totaling 127 some thousand, or just under 99% of all monies expended in Measure A, simply because there was just such a small amount expended. It was relatively easy to hit that very high target, which is still a little bit unusual, but for Prop 39 type bonds, that is something of an industry standard to get in the realm of 40, even 50% or beyond in terms of raw coverage. From that sample, had any item been noted, even a very minor item, that would have been called out in the performance section of the report, and that would have been ultimately recommended for the district to reimburse the program and make that particular election whole. And that's something that we've done in programs where we'll have $100 some finding in a program with a 10 million plus burn rate for that year, and we'll still recommend that that program get reimbursed. And then occasionally performance findings can be dramatic and they can be much larger amounts. But either way, a very sensitive test. Nothing came to light in that Measure A sample. Likewise, in Measure G, much larger nominal dollar amount, smaller overall coverage, 40.976 million sampled out of a total 75.175 million in total transactions during the year. So just under 55% that we looked at in Measure G. Same rules apply. That is not a cherry-picked sample. There's going to be very large and also very small items as part of that sample across a wide range of vendors. Had any single transaction from our sample been, in our estimation, outside of the provision of the ballot language that was put in front of voters when Measure G was passed, that would have been an exception to performance and something that we would note in the performance audit and then detail out further in findings and question costs. During fiscal 25, we note no such exceptions. And so an entirely clean financial statement audit and performance audit for fiscal 25. And with that, I just want to open for any questions any member of the committee may have, kind of going beyond what I covered on any aspect of the report or any of our procedures as performed throughout the year.
Are there any questions?
I have a couple questions.
Go ahead.
So who keeps the financial records? Is it someone here for this bond fund? Is it someone here at the district? Okay.
We keep it in our ERP system. We use PeopleSolve.
Got it. Okay. And this is a good result, so it's good. I do have a procedural request though, which is to, in the future, give the committee an opportunity to review draft financials before they're issued. Because in a typical, we're overseeing the process, and it'd be better to have an opportunity to read them in advance and understand them before they're issued. And maybe other committee members won't be interested, but I am. So it's kind of a common audit committee protocol.
Yeah, so just for clarification, so even our board doesn't get to see them ahead of time. They can only accept them. They don't approve them. So
Interesting.
because they can't defy because the correct me if I'm wrong, Ben, but the audit standards are set by the state chancellor's office for the system as a whole. Is that right?
It certainly is set by the chancellor's office.
Yeah. So
Yep.
the challenge is, and I've had this happen before with prior boards that I've worked for, is we've had boards who, let's just say, didn't agree with the audit results for whatever that's worth. It was it was an election year. Let's not that way.
Yeah.
And so, but they didn't agree. We had to get a legal opinion from the AG's office that boards don't approve audits. They can only accept them or not accept them, but it's still the audit of the district. So we do give our budget audit subcommittee a heads up about what's coming. So we do get draft documents, but a lot of times I think this time we were like 2 or 3 days before the board agenda was due. Just this year was a little different because usually we do this in December, but because of the federal government issues, the state extended the audits this year because the federal timelines changed and freezing funding and all that kind of stuff really messed up our fiscal year. So they extended it. So we're a little off kilter. Even for us, it's off kilter because we're usually barreling through the current fiscal year. And so, but no, your point's well heard, and we'll do our best to make sure y'all have, even if it's not in a committee meeting, we can at least send you to them ahead of time.
Yeah. I mean,
Is it the details to this report or just seeing this report?
Yeah, so the draft
I think
documents are actually these, but in draft form, they're not the final version. So sometimes, and Ben, I'll let you mention this. So when Ben's team does it, he has his own review process that they go through. So sometimes the draft is not necessarily always the final version because it hasn't gone through management review on their side. So we just have to make sure what we give you is pretty close to being the final version.
yeah, I understand. It's hard in a meeting to absorb all this stuff contemporaneously with the presentation. And
Understood.
I also just have a few thoughts on, just suggestions on, because I read the prior year financials and there were some things that were confusing to me. So I thought I had some input maybe on how to maybe word some of the footnotes or some of that kind of stuff that maybe only I would be interested in. But so I don't know, what's the protocol for that? Like,
Just send your questions to the chair and he'll communicate to us and we'll go from there.
Okay.
Yeah, and the other thing, Marcus, that we're getting this, and I think it's me who kind of went to Steph and said, can we get this going earlier? We could have, this presentation could have been done at another meeting after this had been issued. But this actually became official, was it last night?
Official last night, but it went live last Friday for our board of trustees. Y'all just had to be back to back.
Yes.
Which is not normal. You just had to be back to back nights. So it went live for our board last Friday night. So we went live with CBOC on Friday as well.
Yeah, and what in the past, the far past, sometimes the report hadn't been generated in our report or in a timely manner for whatever reason. And so I wanted to make sure that we fulfilled our obligation as a committee. And we're actually ahead of schedule compared to historically what has happened. So, but again, your point's well taken for sure.
Yeah, we'll take your comments and we'll work with the auditors, and then if we can or can't do something, we'll certainly make sure we opine on why and what the reasoning is and so forth, so you have a clear understanding of where we're at.
Okay, any other questions for Ben? So Ben, I only had one question, because we talked about your organization doesn't, I want to say, approve of or render an opinion on the district's methods for how they account for all of this. You know, in the beginning, in the first paragraph or two, I think of both, you said, we don't render an opinion on how this got done, but we did say it was accurate. Is that correct?
In the independent auditors report? Is that in that first auditors report that I spoke to? Let me pull that exact language up.
Page number down.
Yeah, I think it looks like that was slide number 4. I'll go back and I'll share that right now.
Well, it says, this is the emphasis of the matter language that you're.
I mean,
Let me actually, I'll pull up the report itself.
Because it is typical in a situation like this where you're saying, hey, look, we're just opining on this specific entity. We're not trying to encompass the entire operation of the district.
well, no, I did get that part,
Yeah.
but I thought there was some other thing. Again, I'm sorry I did not read the page number
No,
down.
no, no, not to worry at all. That's on the bottom of page 1. Let me, I'll just go to share that screen, and I can speak right to that. So I'll blow this up. It's probably small. So we've got that emphasis of matter. As discussed in note 1, the financial statements present only the district's measures A and G. General obligation bonds do not present fairly the financial position of the district as of June 30, 25, and the changes in financial position there for the year in conformity with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States. Our opinion is not modified with respect to this matter. So that's really speaking to the fact that these financials are a small part of a much larger whole. And so they're required to be broken out from all of those other funds of the district to meet the standards put in place for Prop 39 type bonds, where, for instance, one standard is that there be an oversight committee that's charged with doing exactly what this committee is doing, reviewing audit reports along with other information that comes out during the year to ensure and be able to report not just to the board but to the community that the bond is on track and it's doing what it was promised to do by the language that was put in front of voters that was approved way back when. Another part is that they're required to be audited. And so as part of that audit, these funds are broken out discreetly and they're shown here apart from all of the other activities of the district. And so this emphasis of matter is just calling that out. This would be standard language for any time where, like in a Prop 39 bond program, you're just showing one piece of the district's overall books.
I see. Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Absolutely.
Any other questions for Bill? I think you're on to your next meeting, sir.
Sounds good. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the questions.
Ben?
Thank you for the presentation.
Ben?
Thank you.
Okay, moving to agenda item number 8. Amy, do you have a project update for us?
We do, and so there's a couple of them spread out, the colors, yeah. There,
Lots of colors.
yeah, exactly, and lots of progress. We had a good last quarter here.
Even with all the rain?
Yes, and there's one that in particular, very impressive piece of work over the holiday. I think that presentation there is down in the bottom corner. Okay. So, right, and so on the Milvia College project, and that is a new building at 2118 Milvia Street. It is a lovely building. It is nearly complete. It'll be substantially complete at the end of this month. That was a $100 million project, and we expect to have all of the furniture and fixtures in it by June and have folks move in over the summer. And so we'll do a ribbon cutting for that. We'll either do that in the spring semester here, maybe in April, or we'll do it in the fall. We're working to coordinate that. But by our next meeting, we'll have a date so that you'll be able to mark your calendars. Just put that one forward. Yep. And so this just shows, right, the finished building exterior. So if you drive by it, you can see now that it's done, and really shows some of the Society of Scholars, and also they have a large learning center here. And so that's what these pictures are of that project. So nice to see that project come in. It really is just running. They're done really all except for minor details, and so they're just really a few weeks behind, but the main stuff is all done, so that was good, and they'll end up finishing under budget on that project. So interesting thing about this was an all-women's leadership team on that. So from the design to the builder to the project manager. So And it
The
was
architect and the president and the chancellor.
exactly, exactly. So really, really quite a ways. And actually during Women's Construction Week, this project was highlighted. So real nice little,
Excellent.
well, big project. Yeah, so that's great.
Just a quick question on this. Is this right next to the existing building or is it?
Across the
Catty
street,
corner.
down the block.
Okay,
Yeah, across the street.
I'll have to check it out.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
right next to City Hall, right across the
Exactly.
street from City Hall.
Oh, that right on that
Exactly,
corner there? Oh.
Yeah.
It's on the
Right.
corner of Bilby and Center Street.
Right, and just to put the final bow on it, that the new mayor is a alumni.
So BCC alum,
Nice.
all right,
Awesome.
Yeah,
alumna.
exactly, alumna, that's
Yes.
more appropriate.
Latin
Okay,
correct.
Did you
so,
spend enough money on the multimedia division, especially video and production and editing?
you know, I will say, Jeff, that one of the things since Greg has been here and on all of our projects now, not only are we looking at that ahead of time, but IT and those groups are all involved early on. And so I would think that enough is probably subjective, depending on who you're asking. But I will say that they did a pretty darn good job on this, and we're looking forward to having the new building occupied and students enjoying it. So the Merit Childhood Development, and sorry about this, when I switched to the PDF through the pagination office, so I have a little adjustment that has to be made before it gets posted. So on this one, this is the one that we had a halted construction on this one. So that the negotiation with the surety was completed, the job is back in work, they got back to work. And this is really a large problem with this, had to do with the structural steel and the skewed beams. All of that work has been now approved, so they are back now to moving the project forward. They really had to finish this skewed beam work before they could move forward, and that was pretty much finished just right before Thanksgiving. So they were able to do that, and so now they're really getting, and we hoped by the next quarter report that you will see it a lot further along. But we are happy that it's back in, and looking forward to a lot of good progress there.
Are you using the same contractor? Like, because I know there was trouble with the contractor, it seems like last meeting I attended.
We're using the same contractor, but the surety is in charge
I
of the
see.
contractor, not, so they're using the contractor, they need his license, but the surety's in charge of the project now.
I see, yeah.
Right, and so they actually brought on a construction manager who is there physically on site and helping with the oversight and helping with some of the decisions that got them to the prior issues.
Got it.
So, and we've been doing really regular meetings with them to make sure that everyone is engaged and trying to keep it on track.
How much of a delay was there from the original
We're
schedule?
almost at 2 years.
Almost 2.
Right, so the next project was the Substation C, and this wasn't an exciting project, but it was a necessary project. And this is the one, these guys rock and rolled through all of that weather and got this done and finished the main power connection a day ahead despite all the rain, and then fully commissioned it and got everything powered up as of this past Saturday. So this powers up the library, the S building, what we call the Barbara Lee building, part of the R building, parking lot lights, the gym, and the A building. And so it was very important. We've lost time in the past due to inadequate or problems with the substations. And so will do a lot to shore up those and also to provide appropriate and enough power for the CDC project. So yeah, so that was great, and a lot of bumps on the way. But the BME was the electrician who was the subcontractor. They did a great job, and they were just super helpful. Yeah, and again, despite the rain, they made it happen. We had the limited time for the shutdown, right, because of when school ended during the winter break, and then when staff came back, because staff are in all of those buildings. And we still had, like, the gym was closed down, but they got a temporary generator to make so that they could still use the gym. They really did a good job.
That was my question, and it wasn't new site, and then you just take the connections and click them to the new site. No, this is, you shut everything down.
Right.
Oh,
And so
wow.
they had to take everything off of that pad, then they had to crane it in. And then, then they had to set the new, and they had cement pours and
Mhm.
curing and pull tests. And so there was a lot of work involved. And in the prior presentation, you see all of the trenching that they had to do and all the conduit that was in the lines. They had a lot to work with, and like I say, that BME were the electricians on that. They did a great job. So horticulture, this was wrapped up really as of the last meeting, with the exception that we had occupancy, but we weren't really fully substantially complete and hadn't had the full ribbon cutting. Now it's all done except for the notice of completion down to the county and getting their final retention released. But they had those little piddly things that you have to finish at the end. We've crossed the finish line, and again, if you haven't seen this project, it is beautiful, and they're in, the staff and students are in there enjoying the facilities, and it's really a great project. Same with the College of Alameda Transportation and Technology Center. This one, we did the ribbon cutting in September. Faculty and staff and student are in there using that, loving that building. That also will be hitting their the final notice of completion and release of retention either at the February or March board. So that's getting just, again, all done but the paperwork here. So this was a big deal because it wasn't just building this new site, but they also demoed 2 other buildings this is the combined facility for the 2 other buildings. And so all of that demolition and site cleanup was done and complete as well. So nice to get across the finish line on this one as well.
Mark, I think you were.
Yeah, Jeff and I both attended that.
Yes,
Right.
it was very
awesome.
impressive,
Yeah.
yes.
Right. And the builder on that, Alton Construction, really has been a pleasure to work with. They were great partners on this project. They're also just great partners in general. And so hopefully we'll have opportunities to work with them again in the future because they were really good. The construction managers, Roland, really was a great team again. So very happy about all of that. The Laney College Central Utility Plant is another one that has just about crossed the finish line. The building AA, which is the end part of that unit, is has a storage component to it. And then the rest of that building is actually to support the library, the new library. It has the generator and the transformer equipment in it. And then the actual central utility plant part, which we've replaced all of that equipment, the chiller and the new boilers. So great to have all of that infrastructure in to support the campus for years to come. And they too, again, nice. We're going to have a couple of great board meetings where we're having the notices of completion and the final release of retention. So really nice to see that as some of our other reports have shown, that the bond is it's doing what it's supposed to be doing, right? And it's the work is actually getting done. So very gratifying on this again.
I walk by that all the time on my way to my carpentry classes, and I could see it's almost done. I was curious because I looked at this project report and it shows expenditures to date, 12 million out of a budget of 21 million, and I was thinking, well, it seems like it's further along than halfway. So it showed 9.4 million remaining on the budget. What's going on there?
Yeah, so some of that will change when we do our bond revision list. So this project here was originally phased in a couple of different parts. So that building AA was actually, phase 3, and we had a temporary chiller part. And so as we look and and fix that whole, we have to update the bond. We have to do a bond revision list to show how we put that, package that money together. And so that's why it's like that. So the whole project together the aggregate will be that, but it was 3 separate projects that built it up. So the building AA part that segment was one part of it. The boiler room chillers were another part of it. And then the temporary chillers was the third part of it. And so those parts of it all will be cleaned up. And that schedule there is I will talk about it in just a minute because it's one of the reports that we'll be showing with our scheduling that we have that also ties into our new bond management executive tool, which we just refer to as BMET, where our future reports will come from.
So the other dimensions have been spent previously? I guess I don't understand.
So the report you have is in arrears. That's one.
Mm-hmm.
But 2, we leave money there until the project's finished, and then bond list revisions, we move money. We balance to 0.
Right.
So we'll move the money to other projects or move to contingency and true everything up at the conclusion of the project.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So in essence, so there was some money spent in Measure A. There's some money spent in Measure G. There's some spent in small capital projects. That was a separate project. So the challenge with the bond program was when I got here 18 months ago or so, there were some things that were not put in place that should have been put in place to make it easier for us to manage it.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've done that in the last year. So part of it's playing catch up and also to make sure we stay compliant at the same time. So I worked a lot with staff and our compliance, BMET is through Ann Kennedy Group. That's our Prop 39 compliance company to make sure we have everything squared away. And so we've kind of got this hybrid of what preceded me and what we should be doing. I'm not saying what we did before was wrong. I'm just saying we categorize it a little differently so we can actually see it better and it's a little more transparent. But yeah, in April, we'll do a bond list revision. We do them usually once or twice a year. And in April, we'll do a bond list revision to set up all the work that's going to happen over the summer. And then we'll do an administrative bond list revision in August to close out the books for the prior year. So it's, you'll see one come forward in April, and you'll see those numbers, expenditures and budget will match at that point.
Right, and so in that, so some of those include estimates to complete.
Right.
And so the actual spending and where those estimates were put, right? Yeah, so that's not an actual financial
That's just a
statement there.
snapshot. That's just a
Yeah.
snapshot of
Okay.
the software.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that in just a second
Okay.
after we're done talking about this part, just to give you an idea of what it is. Okay. So and again, it's really
Yeah.
Yeah.
Keep going.
sorry. All right. So the next thing is the Library Learning Resource Center, and this one had just kicked off at our when I did the last bond update. Now this is really moving along. They're doing the site work. They're doing that early construction activities and continuing procurement. This site had a lot of old.
It was part of the old city landfill.
And so, right, they found a couple of license plates from 1919.
Really?
Yeah, and so they've been having to do a lot of that type of work, but the site is nearly cleared for that, and then they'll start the next phase of construction, including some electrical rerouting and things like that coming up. And this just really, the pictures just show that activity. By again, in another quarter, the site's going to look a lot different. Again, that was a project long time coming, and we're excited to see that project move along. So the only other thing that we have now is we have several projects that are kicking off, and so we'll have a pretty robust report next time. At Merritt College, we have another substation that is in design phase right now. We have our Allied Health, or the S building, where we have a shell space that's going to be built out. We have some ADA improvements, and then we have a project that has state funding involved with it, that is the gym modernization building. At Laney College, our theater and locker room projects have started. The locker room project just started, the theater started about a month ago, and so those projects will have pictures for those at the next update. And then we have a fire alarm modernization project that will be going out to bid soon, and we'll be modernizing the student center, just a refresh on that project, and that will be going out to bid over this springtime as well. At Berkeley City College, we have their current Center Street building. Those folks will be moving, the folks that are moving into the Milvia Street building, that move will happen, and then we'll come and modernize the Center Street building. And then at College of Alameda, we have the aviation project, which is at both hangars are going to be modernized there. That project has to go through quite a process with DSA, and then also because it has state funding with it, it'll go to the state. So there's a bit of
And it has to go through the port.
right, right. So there's a bit of work there, and not only the port, but also right. We also have to work with East Bay Mud and the port on yet another part. So there's a lot of moving pieces for that, but it is progressing, and we will see that that workflow continue. And then we'll have some campus-wide ADA upgrades at the College of Alameda as well. So that's pretty much it for now. Yep, and I just thought that I would offer, you talked about setting up some times to do walkthroughs, and there was like, people aren't all available at the same time. But, we do have spring break and other opportunities that if folks want to do a lunch and learn or a tour one day or anything, happy to do that either when students are there, or spring break when there's an opportunity, or one day after class. I'm happy to meet you over there, right? It doesn't have to be an all or
with your
nothing,
scheduled classes.
Right. Well, school starts next week. I need to get into my routine and see how my schedule works out.
Exactly. So the only other thing is this little program summary, right? And this was just a sample. So our team that we work with was with the BMET team, and our bond program managers we're managing the schedules and the projects to tie to the bond list. So for each project, you'll see on the bond revision list that we provided previously, each project that we have will have the project number, right, which is that 4000 series number. Then it has the project name, the general schedule for it, right? So when it's starting, when it's anticipated to finish, and the overall budget. And so that's what this paper is here. And then these will, when we get in this cadence, and I'm sure that we'll talk about what the expectations will be when you're agendizing actual budgets and financial reports. Those ones will be solid information based on the prior quarter that you'll be able to look at and have all the information, including estimates to complete and full packages. This is really snapshot in time, and to just talk about so that you have an idea about the schedule for all of these projects and the original budgets that we had planned on. And that's just this.
This is great. Thank you. Are there any questions? I know it's a lot to take in.
I would like just a little bit of a tutorial on these reports after the meeting, just so I understand better how they all tie together. So
How to read them?
yeah, we can. Well, so the central utility project, on this one, it says the budget's 21 million, and on this one, it says it's 27 million. And
So let me just offer, this is why I don't give any of these reports out, because I have not seen them. So that's why I give them to the CBOC on a quarterly basis. So that way I know they're reconciled to our ERP system. So I would just offer me not having a chance to review them and make sure I know what's there. I don't want to opine on them too much. I'm more than happy to walk through the BMET system with y'all at another meeting. because it is pretty robust, and so forth. My goal has been, since I got here, to get out of what I call Excel hell, which is that other sheet.
I see that.
And because I'm tired of it, because it's too hard to keep up with, and it's too hard. I can't measure compliance against spreadsheets. That's why I went to the VMET and the AKG software, so we can stay compliant. So I would just offer that. I'm happy to have a sidebar meeting. I have to go tonight. I have another engagement I have to go to, but I'm more than happy to do that offline or do a one-on-one through Zoom or whatever needs to be.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm a numbers guy, and when the numbers don't tie out, it's like gives me dissonance in terms of, well, I'm supposed to oversee this, but I don't even know what I'm looking at in terms of like, are we over budget, are we under budget, or whatever. So, so it's not urgent. And if you want to, kind of take the time to go through the reports, and maybe in the next meeting, if there's more alignment, that'll be fine.
We can do that for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the next meeting we'll have Q2 closed. Q2 just closed, and then state gives us till the first of the month, and then we usually do all the reporting by the middle of the month for Q2. So by your next meeting, we should have Q2 wrapped.
Okay.
Right, and I should have had just the schedule and not the budget column on this. So that you'd have an idea to match the bond projects.
Yeah,
right?
it's fine.
So
But
apologies on that.
This is kind of how my mind works. So.
Well, and it's good, right? I mean, right, to have these are the parts of the committee that we've been looking for, and having people here and engaged, right? It's nice to know that it matters.
Right. Okay.
Great, thank you. I did have one question, because the Measure A funding is getting really small. Is that, are those expenditures going to, are we going to close that bond out at any?
So great question. So you can't close a bond out until you audit the last penny. So we will finish this fiscal year, but we will not be able to see, this committee will not be able to close out Measure A till this time next year. So it has to go through an audit cycle, and it has to be approved, and then we can close it.
I see.
And
So
then we
spend
have
the
to,
rest of the
then we
money
have to
this
hang
year.
on, then we have to hang on everything for 7 more years.
And you have to do what?
We have to hang on to all of it for 7 more years after that for records retention.
But it doesn't necessarily have to show.
Because we open our audit for the IRS. So we have to maintain, by the time it closes, we're open for 7 years for SEC filings.
I see. Okay.
That's why we don't throw it away in finance.
Close, seal that up, and file it away in the banker's box, right? Or 300
No,
banker's
we
boxes.
digitize everything now because we don't have enough square footage. Square footage in this town is expensive, so we digitize everything now, so.
Great. All right. Moving on to item number 9. I don't know if anybody reviewed the website. I did, to make sure all of the links did actually work. I'm assuming that now that we've seen this report, the audit reports, that they'll get uploaded to the website as well. So the most current ones are on there. And then I assume as well that we could have the landing page be the most recent. So right now, if you go to that section where the reports are, you land on 2025, and you click up to get to 2026 for our agendas.
Oh, yeah,
It's an IT thing.
Oh, here?
yeah.
Where it says agendas.
No,
and
I
minutes.
noticed it. 25 was expanded, but 26 was
61,
closed.
yeah.
So so it lands on the 26th page. And again, that's not a big deal. We're in January, so this is the first meeting.
Yeah.
But I think those were the only real minor things that if we could get those up, we would be good. And with that, it's 6:37. I'm going to ask, are there any other issues that you might want to bring up that we would not be able to act on because they're not on the agenda, but we could take them up for consideration at the next meeting? And
Form 700.
Form 700?
Yeah, so Form 700s, each member of the committee is responsible personally for the Form 700, so you can file it. It's to the Alameda County Office of, so we have some here. You can do it online as well, so it's all digital now. So it's just to make sure you don't have conflict of interest to what your role is on this committee. So I promise you, I do like 9 of them every year for all the boards I sit on. So because I have to do one as an executive for the district, I have to do one because I help with this body, one for parks and tax, I have to do one, so, and all the statewide committees I sit on, so it's pretty quick, routine. But like I said, at kind of the beginning of the meeting, I was talking about, if you don't do it, but we are required to do it because you are an appointed and you're a Brown Act body, that's why you have to do one.
So do we fill it out online and then give a copy to you?
You just fill it online, and when you get the receipt that shows that you filed it, then you just send us a
Oh,
copy.
it's the receipt. I
Yeah,
see.
because
Okay.
we just maintain a copy of when we get audited, for somebody to ask for it, from
Yeah.
a public record standpoint. But really, it's a personal item that you have to achieve as you
Our
see.
responsibility. I see.
So there's no prompt or email that's sent to us.
What this body has not done in the past, and that's why I'm trying to get y'all compliant. Once you do it, you'll get reminders on an annual basis, like 45 days in advance, that is due for the new year. And so like right now, they're all, and just so you know, they're all due in January of each year. So it doesn't matter when you join the committee, they're always due at the beginning of the calendar year.
I see. So if we're on other committees, not associated with the district, but required to do this Form 700,
It's a
can we
separate-
just take
it's a
the
separate-
same receipt to go
Nope. Do separate forms for each
for
committee.
each part?
Yeah.
I see.
That's why I
Okay.
have to do so many, because every body is a standalone body in the Brown Act. So you have to do one for each body.
Okay. But are the Form 700, other than the entity, are all the questions basically the
It's
same?
all the same.
All
It's a
right.
statewide ethics form.
It is, okay. Good. Just so I understand, if I fill out one,
Like for instance, I just give you a quick example. If one of y'all are, say, a minority owner in one of the construction companies we do business with, and something comes up about that company, you can't vote on anything related to that company. That's just a quick
right,
example,
yeah,
right?
okay.
That's a conflict of interest.
Is there a link on our site for this? Can we get-
No, sir, it's actually, if you take this, it's in here, but it's through the county of Alameda.
Oh.
We don't put it online because then we get PRA requests that we don't have access to your records personally, so
Yes.
that's why we don't link it on our website.
Okay, thank you for that. So everybody, by the next meeting, we have to do our Form 7. Actually, by the end of the month? It's
Yeah,
due at
if
the
you want
end
to do
of
it by the end of the month, you'll have a little more time, because we don't, but we'll prompt you to make sure you get it done. Because we have to do this throughout the district, so we have to make sure all our managers get it done too, which is
It's
gonna
pretty
be a
easy
little bit
to
of.
find on the.
Oh, yeah, you just do Form 700 Alameda County, that'd be one of the first things that pops up.
Easy. Okay.
Because all elected officials have to do it for being elected. Our board, they have to do it now,
Yeah,
so,
just go to ChatGPT.
Yeah. that's
They'll
true.
probably even fill it out for you.
no, don't do that.
And then for specifics about the entity name is,
It's just Peralta Community College District.
okay,
Yeah, it's just our legal name,
Peralta
Community College District.
Got it.
If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. We'll be happy to give you the information that you need.
Great, thanks.
Just
But yes, it's fairly simple.
not to add one more item to the request from my colleague here, but while we're going through all these packets, it would help if on the presentation, maybe if they could tell us what page we're on when we're discussing, because there was a lot of, like, I just figured out the difference between these two reports. They looked exactly the same to me until I finally noticed the difference here. So some visual cues will help. And I didn't know what page we were on for a while. So I was distracted. So I'd rather pay attention and know where we are than try to find where we are.
Noted.
Okay, and then the last thing, since we do now have the audit reports in, our next task is to actually do a report that we prepare to notify the public. And we've usually had a subcommittee do that. It's relatively simple because 3 years ago, we actually got a PowerPoint presentation and everybody on the committee contributed to it. So we have a stock presentation now on a PowerPoint, and for the most part, we just plug in numbers and then give a recap of what happened in the history from before. So if either one of you or both of you would like to be on that committee, I would be happy to entertain that.
How about if I volunteer to do it and bring it back to the next meeting? How does that work?
Yeah, it's just so you know, it's a statutory required annual report of the board
Yeah.
to our board, because you're a subsidiary of our board of trustees.
Right, so like could I draft it and then we could talk about it at the next meeting? Or is it something that requires a subcommittee.
It usually has been done in a subcommittee
Mhm.
and then presented back to the board. So I think the idea is if,
Okay, I volunteer to be on the subcommittee.
great. All right, and I'll be the other person on the
Okay.
subcommittee and we'll go from there then.
All right.
Okay? All right, so that'll be done offline. We don't need to do that here at a meeting. So I'll circle back to you for a time that we can do that.
Sure.
And then, Mark, we have a copy of the PowerPoint presentation, right?
Yes,
Somewhere,
yes.
It's on our website too.
PDF versions on the
but the
website.
PDF, I think one that we can
I have
actually
the
go in
PowerPoint.
and, yeah. Because we had a subcommittee for 2 years work on the form for this, so, okay, great, that's fine, and I'll connect with you, Mark, then.
Sure.
Do that, and it is 6:44, approaching 6:45, so I'm going to adjourn the meeting. Thank you all for your
Thank you.
participation
Thank you all.
tonight.
Great, thank you.